It's probably healthier than snorting cocaine off the toilet seat, but it's definitely not as much fun. I do have some questions about that though. Like if you're going to do that, do you still do the thing where you like, I guess what do they call it? Like a gummy or something where you get like the remnants that weren't snorted and you put them on your, whatever. Anyway, welcome back. It's Rep Rant Repeat. It is the official podcast of the Home Gym Nerd. Of course, it's brought to you by Garage Gym Radio. My name is Jason, or Man Who Parks in Gym. And last episode, I made like a really not funny joke. I don't know. Is it still a joke if it's not funny? I made a comment that it was a PR because it was episode 12. This is episode 13. And as it would turn out, last episode did set a PR, not one I'm particularly proud of, but to date, it is the worst performing episode of Rep Rant Repeat. Last time I looked, which was a shock to my fragile ego, had like 700 views. Pretty rough. So I'm going to ask you now, if you're here, give it a like, give it a follow, give it a tug or a crank or whatever it is that you do on whatever platform or whatever you do when you're alone. We're going to move forward and we're going to just say that that episode was probably going to always stay the lowest performing. And today we're going to pick it back up with lots of view counts and watch hours and things like that, or downloads, or I don't even know the nomenclature anymore. But today we're going to talk about something that every single one of us has fallen for at least once, or some of us maybe more than once. Okay. It's me. I'm the one that falls for this stuff. And sometimes I might be the one that maybe falls for it more than once. It's fitness fads, right? Be it home gym or otherwise, because somehow the fitness industry is, well, I guess maybe it's more like all of the consumerism type industries are this way, but somehow the fitness industry, it's like fashion industry, but for suffering. And instead of the promise of looking drippy and some fire fit, there's always the allure of finding some new efficient way to achieve more for less or whatever. But it seems like, or it is in the home gym space anyway, every couple of months, there's a new thing that makes some bold promises like this changes everything, or this is an absolute game changer. And before we know it, we're all quietly pretending like we never bought it and we're on to something else. So today we're going to maybe take a look at, maybe laugh at some old ones, talk about some of the home gym specific ones, and then we'll ask the real question, are we currently living in one? And if so, what is it, or what are they, and what will be the current next home gym fad that we'll look back on in a few years and go, God, yes, I had one of those. Right. But before we get into it, we're going to do the community spotlight. Okay. This is where we take a look at one of your home gyms, kind of go through and talk about some of your experiences, maybe some of the recommendations or things that you don't recommend to your fellow community members. And this week's spotlight is Classic Colin 5. Okay. Now, some of you guys may remember if you listen to the Home Gym podcast, or you may have seen this before, but Colin is one of those people that we met at Home Gym Con last year. Him and his cousin from Wisconsin. I drove down from Wisconsin. One night, his cousin happened to be the drunkest guy in Kentucky, and that's what I will always remember them as. But super solid dude. He's got a, I'm going to share my screen here. So we are looking at what is essentially an 8-horse stall mat basement gym. Okay. Like I said, it's up in Wisconsin. Talking with Colin, he said that he had bought most of this stuff kind of before he had discovered the home gym community, which those of us who are on social media know that you don't discover the community, but the community discovers you through your algorithm. But he also said that he would do just about everything, most everything differently if he were doing it all over again. I think we can all relate to that, right? I think there's not a single gym out there, and that's kind of what they are, like how we talk about how they're never finished or whatever. It's always this ever evolving or evolution of the home gym. How you start here and before you know it, you do all these things that you would have done differently if you're doing them over again and things like that. And eventually you wind up having Jose's home gym in his basement where you look around and you're like, I can't believe I just built a commercial gym for my own private little space. But Colin, like I said, it's an 8-horse stall mat basement gym. He's got some adjustable dumbbells, the Rep X Pepin, or Repin as they are affectionately called within the community, on a homemade DIY cart, which I think is one of the things that's also really cool about the home gym space, right? You can make something or purchase something. You can spend as much or as little on some of these things, like storing your barbell or your dumbbells, and still achieve the same thing. Still, you can make it custom fit your space, fit your needs. Like this, he's got it. You can walk into it, open them up. He's got it on locking casters. You can roll it over to where it needs to be, all that stuff. Now, I saw some, and it's a little side quest here. I saw some chatter on Facebook community yesterday about the Pepins or Repins or whatever. Somebody had made a comment that they thought there might be something new coming that's supposed to make these, you know, put these these are going to be, everybody's going to want to sell these, then buy whatever new is coming out or something like that. I don't know. But what caught my eye was somebody had made a comment about how these rep-ins are, how they're overhyped, how it's just, and they kind of took a jab at social media influencers or social media personalities on YouTube and stuff who do reviews and stuff. And it just kind of, I don't know, it kind of sat with me wrong probably because of that. It's not me personally, but just sometimes, man, okay, some people have never put their hands on an actual set of shitty adjustable dumbbells, and it shows, right? To complain about like the rep-ins being a little bit loose or making some like the clanky sound or something, you're going to get that. If you don't have that, then that means they're going to be too tight and you're going to be complaining because they don't actually function the way they're supposed to quickly to get the play. There's just some of that, right? That's part of having an adjustable dumbbell. That's one of those things that it's a trade-off, right? You get all this space and savings from not having a 5 through 100-pound set or whatever. And the trade-off is that you're going to get a little bit of rattle sound when you're using them or something, that kind of stuff. And to call them overhyped because someone who has experience with a lot of dumbbells ranks them very highly compared to the others that you maybe have never even touched. None of them are perfect. Okay. And this actually applies for everything, whether if it's $6,000 prime leg press or whatever. None of these things are ever going to be perfect. And everybody's always going to be able to find something that it just doesn't quite work for them or this or that, or whatever. That's what's cool about having all these options. But just a few years ago, 5-6 years ago or whatever, we didn't have all of these things. Like the best you could get for adjustable dumbbells were like Bowflex 552s. You know what I mean? And if you think that these are bad, what these were like a response to all of those complaints about all those things. They're so big, they're unwieldy, they're plastic. If I drop them, they break. If I don't like the grip on them. That, these are like somebody went through and Pepin guy in Canada went through and kind of made these dumbbells to satisfy all of those complaints as best as what you possibly can. And this is the love child of Rep and Pepin putting those things together. And they are great. They really are. I've used them at home gym con, and I just anyway, it was one of those things that hit me. I had to push myself away from the keyboard and remember that it's not that serious. You know what I mean? Awesome set of dumbbells down there, dude. Also sitting next to him, he's got a Bells of Steel seal row pad. This is not one that I have personally used. I did have the Soren X Bulldog pad for a long time. It's actually when I sold my Monster Light Rack with the 5/8 inch holes, the very first 1-inch hole attachment that I bought before I even decided on which rack I was going to get was that Soren X Bulldog pad. I wanted that thing so bad, like from the first time I saw it, and I just recently got rid of it. But this one, I always wonder, for one, it looks like storing it. I mean, I guess if you have a low, like a bottom cross member or something like that, storing it's probably not that big of a deal. I've seen it in a lot of floors and stuff. So that's what made me think of that. But then also, it looks like if you were using it for sill rows or something like that, like you might be too close to the upright. Is that a thing? I am curious if any of you guys have that. If you'll comment down there and let me know what are some of the downsides of the Bells of Steel sill row pad. But it's a cool option. I like that these things. I feel like the Bulldog pad was one of those that was like a slow burn, and then once people caught on to it and it started ripping it off and making it less, it was like $500 or something like that to buy that thing. It's pretty expensive. Once they started getting more affordable, they got really popular there for a while. Kind of a fad, kind of a thing that everybody had to have for a bit. But I've always liked them. All right, this next shot, front and center, we've got the Rep AB 3100. It looks like in classic red. That's Rep again, and not to just sit here and blow Rep all night, but they make really good weight benches. The thing about like the AB 3100 is just a solid weight bench, a solid adjustable bench. It does what it's supposed to do. It's simple. It's effective. It's not too heavy. It's sturdy. It's like one of those benches that when you get that, it's really hard to replace it with anything else. It's hard to justify replacing it with anything else, right? I see he's got also in here the Inspire FTX, which we talked about this actually in the last episode, I think, right? I really like the Costco Inspire FTX. I wish they still had these things for $1,000. These are one of those things that like, man, if I had like a second gym somewhere, like I've got a buddy in Canada who has like access to his parents have like a second, like a cottage or whatever. And he's always talked about either, do I sell this thing or should I take it up there? Whatever. It's one of those things I feel like you could carry that thing with you to your grave. You know what I mean? Like you're never going to outlive that. And you could use that type of a thing for the rest of your life. Just a great piece. Anyway, enough of that. I think I blew all over it the last episode. So I see here just zoom in on what I can. On the ceiling up there, it looks like it may be a mag grip hanging down and like a curl bar. I don't know if is that hanging from something where you can do like pull-ups on that? I see on the FTX pull-up bar, he's got a set of those elbow straps, like ab straps or whatever, that you put your elbows in and do leg lifts. But hanging from the ceiling are a couple of attachments. That may just be where he's storing them down there, but it would be kind of cool if you could also do pull-ups or something there and have those variations. See the bench that comes with the Inspire sitting in the back. No need to, that's probably one of those things that, it's nice to have like an extra bench, but one of those that you're probably like, we've got this other bench. Why would I ever need that or use it or whatever? These are my absolute, I see a set of those square D handles, that come like with like anytime you get like a cable, something that comes with like free D handles, it is these square metal ones. My absolute least favorite. They're probably the reason. Well, actually, they're my second least favorite. My top most least favorite, my bottom, I don't know, top most least favorite are the D handles that have the spongy grip. Because like at my old commercial gym, they had those with the spongy grip, and something about wrapping my hand around that, like somebody else's sweat, all that like gunk that in there. It's about the equipment. My visceral reaction to it is about the same as like when you wash the dishes in the sink and you get finished and you have to reach down into like the dregs or whatever of the food and stuff and dig that out so that you can pull the plug on the sink. That's exactly what it feels like when I put my hand on one of those. Second least favorite are these square D handles, and it has everything to do with one, they want to rotate around the steel post, but they don't do it. There's no like bushings or bearings or anything in there. So it's just like metal on metal, just grinding its way around if it does. And then also the D is so small that it's like hits the back of my hand or my wrist or whatever in a way that it's just uncomfortable. I would rather take a golf ball to the shins than feel that thing on the back of my hand or wrist or whatever. And I don't even care if I sound like a diva. It's the truth. So it's no surprise to me that Colin has a second set of handles, and those ones are actually really good. These are the ones, he's got a set of those. They're like kind of your basic nylon webbing with a plastic tube that goes around it, and the tube can kind of, the webbing can slide in and out of the tube or whatever. So it's very similar to what I like about the track handles that I talk about in every episode. Looking down in the corner, it looks like he's also got an arm blaster. So I expect to see those arms blasted in late August. Oh, look, he's got the track handles. He's got 3 sets of handles. That's my style, dude. He's got the track handles on there. It looks like maybe the Darko grips also. I didn't even see that they're so hidden, camouflaged with the rest of the stuff. But yeah, he's got the track handles with the Darko grips almost snuck those in on me. He's got the black grip with the red. I don't know what those are called, but if it was a bicycle, it would be the thing that gives you the blister on the edge of your thumb. But so pretty cool, nice little color coded thing. I see a puke bucket there on the side, along with a clock. So I guess you can time the time between pukes or something like that. Super cool. Let's see what else do we have here. Moving to the back side of it, we are looking kind of just an overview of everything in like a wide angle shot. To the left, we've got the Weaver chest fly, pec fly / rear delt, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But just know that it's there. And then also in this shot, you can see he's got a 6-post rep PR 4000, and also the Inspire FTX and a few other items there. But a pretty, it's really, like I said, it's 8 stall mats. And I know I keep saying that. I feel like in the home gym space, we're the only people that use stall mats as a unit of measurement. And every single one of you guys know exactly, whenever I say that, you know exactly how big that is and what stuff. So he's got what I think is a cool kind of customized setup for his. What I like about this is that he said most of the stuff he's bought or put in there before he kind of really got a hold of the home gym community. And so it's not just filled with all the things that like every video says you have to have first. He's got things that he prioritizes for his workouts and his methods and style and stuff. And I think that's really cool because I don't think he would have, if he had gone, I mean, I know he said the Weaver chest, pec deck thing is his most recent purchase. It's one of those things that doesn't usually come highly super recommended in your top 5 things. And he's got, he's got his bases covered based on his needs. And I think that's really cool. So let's get a little close up here on the rack. Like I said, 6-post rack from Reps, the PR 4000. So he's in that 5/8 inch life with, now this is an earlier version of it. So there was a time, so Rogue and Rep with their 5/8 inch racks, they have 6-inch hole spacing on the side. Rep, more current model, they just one night, like overnight, without really making any of a much ado about it or whatever, they started using the 2-inch hole spacing all the way around. And that was always one of those things. One of the things that when I had the Monster Light, I felt like I was actually limited by on a few things. It was mostly with like attachments that I was trying to do things off the side of my rack that maybe it wasn't really designed to do or something like that. But that was probably the only time that I could ever say with certainty that I was actually limited by it. So I see he's also using safety straps, which is one of those things that I don't remember anymore. Like now it's been so long since I've had them. That was one of the things when I first went from a full 4-post rack or a 6-post rack or whatever to my half rack that I was like, man, I'm going to miss those. I did like the safety straps. There's something about using spotter arms that when you do tap it, it can kind of throw you off or something. With these, it's like a pillow, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't interfere with your lift. It doesn't get in your head and all that stuff. It's not always that way with the spotter arms. So those are cool. I do like that. He's also got in there a Rogue Ohio Power Bar in red Cerakote to match the red and black theme he's got going on there. And it looks like the Rep SSB, the safety squat bar, hanging on a Darko anchor. Super cool. Plates. Got a little mix there from Again Faster. I see some from Rep, like the equalizers with the grips. I say this every time I see them. And anytime I see a grip plate, I'm going to say the grip plates make the most sense for 99% of every application. And if I don't see grip plates, I'm going to say grip plates make the most sense for like 99% of every application. Now I'm seeing something here that I'm really confused by. I see this MG bar. This looks like the Rep multi-grip bar, but it's leaned against the wall against a big like poster type thing or tapestry or whatever of a stormtrooper born to lift. I can't think of the name of the company that makes those, that made that. It'll come to me at 3:00 in the morning whenever I can't sleep. But what I'm confused by is that is this my first AI gym submission? Like, where is the second half of that barbell? Because if you're looking along, there's like 2/3 of the barbell, but we're missing a whole sleeve and the other end of it. And I don't see that it's like, it's not behind I don't know, Colin. Did you slip me some AI? All right. Also in the shot, we've got, well, it looks like a mini fridge. Like I mentioned, he is in Wisconsin, so I can't quite see. When I zoom in, it gets a little blurry, but if I'm guessing, that's full of beers and cheese and red meat, something like that. Probably that looks like a crushed beer can. I do see that one looks crushed. So that's something that I would benefit from. I would, two things that I could benefit from in mine would be like a water fountain or some sort of a source of liquid, because if I don't bring it out there, I just won't go back in or something to get one. And then also a freaking urinal or something. But anyway, all right. So here is our closer look at the pec/rear delt fly. This is from Viver, which I believe is like, and we talked about this a little bit. I think it's the same white label that like GMWD and Saidi and all those other ones use, right? He said this is actually his most recent and most horrific purchase to date. Basically comes down to biomechanics, right? This is that same concept that we talked about last time when we were talking about the GMWD chest press that I have, where I'm starting to put together some little cheap things that I can do to try to make it a little bit better, but I don't think there's anything I'm ever going to be able to do to make it amazing or make it perfect or make it anything better than it's okay, right? And this is one of those things, like Colin was telling me about all the problems that he's had with this in terms of usage, and why it doesn't feel right and it's not quite hitting his delts the way that he had expected it to, and it's like the arms are too short. It doesn't quite, just a lot of things with it, right? It doesn't line up with your shoulders. He has to do some kind of workaround to get it to sort of kind of be okay. And this is one of those things where I say, man, it doesn't matter how cheap it is. He was like, I really shouldn't complain because I paid just under $300 or so for it. Right. Well, $300, I'm going to quote this because it's relevant. I don't know where the quote came from. Probably someone much smarter than me or someone who had a lot more free time or something like that. But it's relevant to this argument. And again, this is not my original quote, so don't high five me if you see me or anything for coming up with it. But it says something like, the bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten. That's what I feel like with this. And I don't just mean the quality of the materials or whatever, but also the quality of the functionality, the quality of the usefulness of it, right? That's what's more important. I mean, I don't care that it's 14 gauge steel, that it's bolted together and all that stuff. In some ways, that's kind of a benefit in our space because it makes it easier to move around. It makes it easier for me to disassemble and get it in my car and take it to the dump or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's the fact that it doesn't do what he wants it to do. And now it's here. He spent $300 on it. He's not going to be able to get much out of it, right? But at least he's only lost $300 if he throws it in the dumpster. But it's taken up this large space in his gym, and it's something that he regrets buying, and he wishes he had saved up his money and bought something and dedicated that much space. In his 8-stall mat gym, he's dedicating this much space to this machine, and it sucks. You know what I'm saying? So that is one of those things. It's a tough pill, and it's one of those things that I do hope that someday we get somebody that's somewhere in between, right? Like Temple of Gains is not quite that, right? Temple of Gains is still they're striving to be that value leader in commercial grade equipment. But what we need is somebody who's making a kind of a mid, upper tier, super budget friendly thing, right? So it's maybe the same materials, the same build quality as this Viver machine, but they're putting their resources into someone who can work within that to design one that works really, really well, so that Colin can buy this thing for maybe $500 instead of $300, right? And now he's paid $500 for this, and it may not be amazing out of the box. It may not be the end all be all, right? It might need some updates later on or something, but it's worth putting the money into because it works so freaking good, right? That kind of a thing. Like it may not have the greatest vinyl and the padding might suck and whatever, but he buys it for $500. And when he can later, if he decides, I really want to put some more money into this thing and upgrade the vinyl or whatever, he can spend another $150 or whatever doing that and go that route with it. And it's something worth doing that too. That's kind of what I'm hoping that we see someday. Who knows? We might end up not seeing that, bypass that altogether, and just go straight to these kind of machines that are made a little bit more smaller and compact, and they're made only to click your electronic resistance device into, and that's just what we have. I don't know. Wherever we end up going with it, I love featuring gyms like this. This is another one that it just kind of proves that you don't really need a 3,000 square foot facility or $40,000 worth of equipment to have a home gym that works for your space or catered for your space or whatever. You just need intention. You need to prioritize kind of based on your individual training preferences, your space, and of course your budget. And if you're in Wisconsin, you probably need a heater, red meat, and maybe even some beers. But most importantly, you just need to actually use the stuff. And if you want your gym featured on Rep Rant Repeat so that you can get one of these sick featured home gym stickers, send pictures or videos of your gym directly to me at Man Who Parks and Gym or Rep Rant Repeat on Instagram. You can also send them via, Messenger on Facebook or whatever. I genuinely do love seeing what you guys build. Now let's roast ourselves just a little bit on some fitness fads that maybe had us in a chokehold. And speaking of classic Colin, let's start with the classics. Now, full disclosure, I did have to do a little bit of research on some of these because I couldn't quite remember everything. But this first one was the inspiration for this episode. As you may recall, I mentioned in a previous episode that I've been steadily downsizing some of my excess cable attachments and just crap that have amassed like over the years or whatever. But I know I do this a lot. It's a sick addiction and a vicious cycle. I don't recommend it, but it always comes down to the stuff that's like, I don't know, that's like, you don't want to throw it away. You can't sell it and you probably can't really give it away either. So what do you do with it? Well, that's these guys, right? It's blood flow restriction training bands. Is it useful? Maybe. Yes. I don't know. I'm told that it is. Did we collectively overdo it? Some of us, yeah. There was a time where if your limbs weren't slightly purple, you weren't serious about hypertrophy. And if you weren't a little bit scared that you might be running the risk of like a cardiovascular strain or some sort of hypertensive stroke, then you were probably leaving gains on the table. They say it works in like rehab situations, right? Like it works in specific contexts and it dates back to like 1960s Japan. It's used in sports rehab, physical therapy, stuff like that. But there's actually very little evidence that proves that you'll see sizable gains despite looking and feeling like the ultimate warrior when you're wrapping your juicy biceps. Again, it's just proof that we will literally do anything to try to get an edge on hypertrophy, but there was definitely a wrap everything and see what happens phase. I don't know. Then there was the shake weight era, right? Late night infomercial royalty, I guess. They promised micro oscillations for maximum activation. And the only thing that was activated, at least to my knowledge, was the meme industry. I really do think that the shake weight might have been one of the first or earliest memes, like before memes were a thing. And it's one that still shows up from time to time and it's always appropriate. I don't know. I remember seeing them like garage sales when I was a kid, also at like a Goodwill or Salvation Army or just thrift stores, but I've never actually known anyone who bought one to use it and who can personally attest to the disappointment and just utter shame that living with that secret must feel like. Yeah, so if you or someone that you love bought into the shake weight craze, I won't judge you, but I need to hear from you. Drop a comment. It's a safe space. It's the internet. Just use the same veil of anonymity that you hide behind when you leave some snide comment about how I talk too much or how small my biceps are, whatever. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about barefoot, minimalist running. Okay, we all read one book or, okay, some of you guys probably have never read a book, but you've at least seen a post on social media and you decided that shoes were some sort of a conspiracy. I mean, you still see this to a degree, like the argument that shoes are putting your feet in a cast for your entire life or whatever, and that you need $200 socks to fix yourself. I'm more or less talking about that sudden switch that happened several years ago. Like 1 minute, we all needed Air Max shoes with gel or a pump that you could customize the amount of air your shoes contained based on how high you needed to jump or whatever. Then the next thing you know, like everybody's running in those weird looking 5 finger toe gloves, right? They're trying to convince you that that burning sensation in the arch of your foot is your body's way of punishing you for wearing comfortable shoes. I don't know. But maybe the difference today is that now it just feels like it's more balanced, I guess. Like barefoot shoes are maybe more of a tool, not a personality trait. Of course, I say that. All I can think of as that's coming out of my face is Chris Duffin cramming my dogs into a pair of those barefoot joints at the Rogue Invitational a few years ago when it was still in Austin before they started holding those things in Scotland every year. And it's really hard for me to say that those shoes are not your personality. Whatever. The next one is definitely one that I've done numerous times. That's the extreme DVD programs, right? P90X, Insanity era stuff. So this was before streaming, before Peloton, before we had apps like Juggernaut AI. You either finished the workout or you just emotionally quit and sucked at life. Muscle confusion, I think, was the buzzword. Some people still use that. I think that Jeff Nippard guy still talks about confusing the muscles and stuff. But consistency was, for me anyway, the missing piece, right? I did find insanity, like I did do the insanity program over and over again. Back then I didn't eat. I just ripped lung darts and chugged beers every night. I did insanity workouts in my living room because I saw a Beachbody infomercial that I guess it spoke to me. I don't know. I remember half-assing those workouts because, well, like I said, I was fueled by cigarettes and Millers, but I was trying everything I could to keep up with someone else's level of fitness. Just an all-around terrible approach. It's kind of like what sucked about CrossFit, right? But hey, at least I was moving and at least Beachbody got a sale. The next one I didn't personally do. It's the Bosu ball, everything. But there was a time when, like, if you weren't squatting on an unstable surface, were you even training your core? Turns out the ground is still undefeated, but there's a very likely chance that if I saw you standing on a Bosu ball doing dumbbell curls during that time, I 100% wanted to punch you in the face. There was a guy at my old gym that used to do, he like carry the Bosu ball with him everywhere that he went. And he would do like jumping jacks on a Bosu ball. He would do everything he did on this freaking Bosu ball. I didn't get it. Let's bring this home a little bit because our little niche, and we're not so immune, whether if it's on a pre-order or we're waiting for a version 2.0, there's always some piece of equipment that is the must-have piece in the home gym. So I know we've talked about these before. It's called Rep, Rant, Repeat, guys. Probably going to repeat some stuff, but it's the GHD. God, man, such a great piece of equipment. Everyone wanted a GHD a few years ago. Then they realized that GHD or glute ham raises are hard. So hard means that they're skippable and they're just huge, right? Take up a lot of space in your gym. So as fast as you saw garage gyms getting filled with GHDs, you started seeing them disappear once people realized that a huge footprint on a skippable exercise may be better served with a reverse hyper, right? Suddenly everyone had a spinal compression issue and needed Louis Simmons to fix it, right? By just throwing more weights at it. And just like the GHD, these went in and out of every home gym, although I think the reverse hyper does continue to hold the rare title of the largest drink spotter that is maybe less versatile than the Massonomics drink spotter. So there's that, I guess. Also, lever arms. Like, I can't believe we still talk about lever arms. Greg, I'm looking at you, and even more confused as to how still no one has perfected the lever arm. With all these variations that have come out, it just seems like, I don't know, they all sort of kind of do the same basic thing, but still none of them really feel as good as whatever machine they're trying to replicate for one reason or another. And I think mostly the reason is that it comes down to like the handle, right? The handle angle in relation to the floor whenever you're utilizing all the super duper converging blah, blah, blah that they all seem to have now. I don't know, whatever. There's also recovery tech, right? It's like in the recovery tech world, it's like an arms race, right? There's red light, there's cold plunge, there's hyperbaric chambers, compression boots, and those aura rings that tell you that you need more sleep no matter how much sleep you've gotten. Now, I'm not saying that recovery doesn't matter. I mean, my dream gym would have a full on recovery room with like a happy ending, right? I'm saying at some point, some of us might spend more time recovering than actually training. So let's get to the big question here. What are the current trends, or what are some of the current fads that we might look back on in the future in an episode and laugh at how we all flock to it like a moth to a flame? Is electronic resistance a fad, right? I think this is where it could get interesting. Electronic resistance machines, smart gyms, AI coaching, digital weight stacks, connected mirrors, motorized resistance. Is this the inevitable future? Or are we going to look back in like 10 years and think about things like, remember when we thought Bluetooth made us stronger? Now, I'm not anti-tech. I've been pretty open about my thoughts on electronic resistance. Remember the anal OG? Just to reiterate, I think it's really cool. I like what it can add to your training, and I do see a place for it in the home gym. My opinion, though, it's most likely going to serve more as like a supplement to analog weights, but I do wonder, like, will iron ultimately win, or will software be the overwhelming single most sought after piece that defines a home gym the way that, I don't know, like a pair of dumbbells most likely does today? Because iron has at least one thing that software doesn't, right? Doesn't need a firmware update. I guess it also doesn't have a battery life or a shelf life, or come with the fear of being obsolete, or just stop working out of the blue one day. And if you happen to have two of them, then one of them breaks. I guess you don't have to think about like whether or not you have to replace both for the newer model or whatever. Okay, that might be more than one thing, but there are definitely a lot of things that magnetic resistance offers that just old school iron does not. So tell me what you think. Let me know in the comments. We know it's here. It's really cool. We're embracing it. We know it's going to be big, but will electronic resistance stand the test of time, or will it be the Fitbit of 2036? That's probably the question that we will continue to debate, I guess, until 2036, I suppose. But speaking of trends, I said trends, not trend, blown, meatheads. Let's talk about mushroom coffee. I don't know how we got here, but suddenly everyone seems to have a better focus, better gut health, better immunity, better enlightenment because they added powdered fungi to their morning ritual. Maybe it's amazing. Maybe it's marketing, but it does feel very much like this year's green juice. And I'm not afraid to admit that I've been using it to try to cut back on my excessive coffee intake, right? I know, loser. I don't care. Look, I drink way too much coffee, like way too much. I love it. I love the act of it. I love the way it tastes. I just, the blacker the better, right? Folgers, okay. Nitro cold brew, I'm down. Tote your note, buy here, pay here, used car lot drip coffee straight from the Bun coffee maker. That's like mother's milk to me. And I'm finally coming to the conclusion that even though I'm trying to make sure that as much as I like coffee, I don't want it to be my personality either, right? But I'm finally coming to the conclusion that I do lack the mental fortitude to just tap the brakes somewhere between pissing as fast as I can drink more coffee and the inevitable restless anxiety jitters that ensues. And I don't want this to come across as like a recommendation. Okay. It's not. In fact, the mushroom coffee, oh, I feel like I have to preface what I'm about to say. Okay. I shouldn't have to say this, but I'm going to because maybe some of you guys are literal or something. I've never tasted poop. Okay. I haven't, but I've smelled it. Okay. It kind of tastes like poop smells. At least if you try to drink it black, the way that I like my coffee. I mean, if you put anybody that says that it tastes great, they're probably putting a lot of sugar and milk, stuff like that in it. Right. I haven't done that. I've just been, I'm drinking it as is. But it's one of those things that's like, it really though, it's, if you've ever been hiking, like imagine you're hiking out in a woods somewhere. It's like that perfect environment for things to grow, right? It's a little bit cool, it's a little bit dewy, a little bit moist or whatever. And there's a kind of a rotted tree that's laying next to the trail. If you were to lift that thing up, I'm talking like Pacific Northwest type flora, right? And you pick that thing up. Imagine what you're going to see, that little life that's under there, right? It's like super, super fertile soil. There's going to be like grub worms, those tiny little spiders, ants, all those little things that are in there, and the soil super black and rich. Now imagine taking that and then, scooping up a handful of it and just kind of filtering some hot water through it. And what that tastes like, that's what mushroom coffee tastes like. It's not particularly good, but it is, you know, helping me. It's giving me that comfort of drinking something kind of not that the acquired taste or whatever that coffee is, because it has a lower caffeine stuff, and then whatever the other benefits. I do feel a little bit better on it. But whether it's a placebo or not, I don't know. I'm welcoming it. And so that's that. But it's one of those things that's like, I know that it's a fad, it's a trend, it's a thing. It's shown up all over my news feed, and it is what it is. And I'm embracing it while it's here for whatever health benefits I can get from not drinking so much freaking coffee. So, okay, that's enough about that. Let's jump into a quick product spotlight, and then we'll wrap this shit up. I promise. Okay. So, all right. So speaking of things that might be the current wave of things that everybody thinks they have to have, articulating arms, right? It's like now that everyone has a functional trainer integrated into the rack, it's excessive amounts of cable attachments. And for many, it's those articulating arms that are supposed to make your rack integrated functional trainer work sort of like the Free Motion or the Prime functional trainers, right? Lots of import companies seem to have them. I feel like there's a story that involves GetRx having maybe shown them off to the world. They were going to make them proprietary, and then in true Chinese fashion, they started popping up on Taobao, Temu, and Alibaba. But like I said, lots of companies are making these things, but I don't think I've seen anyone making them as nice as what these that were shared by Rep, Ryan McGrady at Rep Fitness, Ryan_Rep on Instagram. If you're not following that guy, you should. He shares a lot of kind of behind the scenes stuff on Rep's up and coming releases and things like that. So let's take a look at the Rep Fitness articulating arms. So what really got my attention on, man, they've really polished these things. They look so good. I'm going to pause it here so you can get a look. The thing that caught my eye first is they're using bushings everywhere, which is really, really nice. That's very nice and snug and just well built. Is on par with that. This is the first piece that I've looked at. Rep always does things really well. They do have nice finishes. They've really picked it up over the years, and just really have continued to amaze me with how much they have taken on the market and in becoming kind of a premier leader in the industry. But these are on par with what I would expect to see from a Prime Fitness, or not necessarily. I wouldn't say Rogue. These are better than what Rogue would do. Rogue would just have a cooler Rogue style, right? They have a cool. Whoever does their design stuff is really good. Not that these aren't, but anyway, the thing I really liked about it is this. Pay attention to this button right here. If you can see that, instead of using a pop, it's still a pop pin style, but it's just the way that it's activated is different. Really cool. I love these. Can't think of what these are called, but it's like it's like a rounded head Allen bolt. It just gives it a nice clean look. Everything's very, very well done on these. I don't even see any bolts that just stand out and look like, well, there's the eyesore, there's the thing they overlook. There's where they, shaved a buck or whatever. Everything's very, very nice looking. Everything looks like it moves. He said they're longer and stronger than what their original design was going to be. Like I said, pay attention to this silver button right here and see how this activates to be able to adjust it up and down. Here he goes there. It's just super cool. Very nice, simple, and you can do it with one hand. There's nothing weird, nothing crazy on there. It looks very solid. He said that they were able to kind of make it in such a way that it's, kind of what I like this is, and I'm again comparing this to Prime stuff because Prime does this very well, where things are appropriately built. right? Like it's not overbuilt, it's not underbuilt, it's not so heavy that you can't freaking move it up and down the upright, but it's substantial enough that it doesn't feel flimsy and cheap, right? And rep, it looks like they've achieved that with this, and I'm super stoked. I hope these are at Home Gym Con. I would love to get my hands on these and feel them for myself and kind of see what maybe the allure is or what the hype is about these things. All right, so articulating arms. Now, are these a fad? Are they genuinely solving a problem? I don't know. I mean, here's what I like, right? If they are truly adding value, I do like that. I like that they seem to offer flexibility. I like that companies are competing to level up the offerings when something gets kind of popular like that, right? Like they're not just white label copying or making it look, they're taking steps to make them look nicer and feel nicer and perform better and stuff. But here's what I question. Is it actually better, right? Are we over engineering these things? Am I leaving gains on the table if I don't have articulating arms on my functional trainer rack? This is where I think trends get interesting, right? Sometimes the fad becomes the standard, right? Sometimes it's becomes a Facebook marketplace listing. I think it'll be interesting to see where these things fall. Although I don't see anybody. I mean, these will be a listing, and nobody's going to take them off there, right? It's not like lever arms where they're like, man, get these things out of my whatever. But anyway, I think it'll be interesting to see where these things fall. Here's the reality, though. Not every fad is bad. Not every trend is dumb. Innovation seems to happen in waves, but principles don't change, right? So progressive overload, consistency, intentional programming, actually training. These are reminders for myself, by the way. But I want to hear from you. What did you buy into? What were some of the fads or trends or whatever that you now regret, or the thing in your corner that you're like, dude, I can't throw this thing away. Can't give it away. What do I do with it? And what do you think we're currently overhyping? Drop it in the comments. I really do enjoy the conversation, despite what it must look like to watch or listen to a guy or a man who parks in gym do a solo podcast. As always, lift heavy, but not too heavy. Move well, recover smart, and don't refinance your house for the next big thing, unless it's like vintage plates, because those things are timeless. This has been Rep Rant Repeat. I'm Jason, man who parks in gym, and I'll probably see you at Home Gym Con.